Are Mormons Christians? For some, that's a controversial question, and many people have a lot to say on the topic. It's one of those things that some people get up in arms against, because having the authority to define who is and who isn't a Christian is highly important to them.
Hey everybody, who is in charge of who gets to call themselves a Christian? The answer is nobody.
So yes and no.
Honestly, this could have been the end of it. Who gets to dictate who a Christian is? Nobody. If we just stopped at yes, that would be great. But so often, we tend to make things more complicated than they need to be, even when it really doesn't need to be complicated. I mean, look at the next clip.
And secondly, when it comes down to it, you don't know anyone's heart.
See? It's not complicated. Or at least it doesn't need to be. We don't know what's in each other's hearts. For us to try to determine if they are truly a Christian or not isn't something we can do. It's beyond our capabilities. As you can probably imagine though, that's not this creator's final conclusion. So let's see it.
But there is another category of people. These are people that call themselves Christians and yet reject core Christian doctrine. You see, the early church, they did us a huge favor and they laid out in creeds core Christian doctrines.
So this raises the question, what are the core tenets of Christianity? And where do we actually get them from? I'm not sure that this is such an easy question, especially when one can make an argument that our understanding of Christianity has changed greatly over time. When we look at the early church fathers, that's largely what they were engaged in. They were actively developing theology while they were busy answering new questions that kept emerging. While they would agree on some things, they would also disagree on others. So is it really fair to point to a creed that was adopted 3 centuries after Jesus as being what defines a core tenet of Christianity? I'm not so sure, especially since it wasn't unanimous. And even afterwards, there continued to be dissent and other views. To me, it seems to be cherry picking, but let's continue.
Theoretically, Jesus would be able to make that determination, but we can't seem to get a hold of him.
Well, I got good news. He's going to come back and judge the living and the dead, and he is the one who gets to decide who truly is a follower of him and who is not.
Exactly. Jesus is the one who has the ability to make this discernment. That again should be the end of this discussion. If Jesus is the one who has the ability to judge, the only one who has the ability to judge, then that should be it. After all, he's the one who can see what's in our heart. Why are we then so concerned with attempting to prejudge here? We shouldn't be, but maybe Cole is attempting to make a larger point, so let's see.
The reality is that people pretend they get to declare who is and isn't a Christian because they're trying to speak on behalf of their own group. Really, all they're saying is, that's a Christian I don't like.
No, that's not what's going on.
Honestly, I think Dan is right here. There is one more clip that we will look at, and Cole does basically what Dan is describing here. We see this all the time, especially with apologists. They decide that they have the ability to define what a true Christian is, based on their own cherry picking. And then they isolate all of the people that they don't like by claiming that they have the ability to say who is and who isn't a Christian. But this entire process seems to be nonsense, because as Cole says himself, we don't know what is in a person's heart. And it's Jesus who gets to ultimately be the judge on this subject. Personally, I think Jesus is going to be somewhat lenient. Clearly, there are many conflicting views on most subjects when it comes to Christianity. There are many different interpretations of what Jesus said and did. I don't think Jesus is going to fault us if we end up missing a few things here and there, as long as we truly are trying to follow him to the best of our ability. I don't think perfection is needed here, yet Cole seems to think otherwise, that he can be the judge after all. Why? Well, let's look at the final clip.
Both Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses reject core doctrines of Christianity.
And who defined these tenets? A group of Christians who couldn't agree on the subject 300 years after Jesus. That really seems rather arbitrary. And honestly, it seems like Cole is picking that because it agrees with the view he already has. In essence, Cole is defining Christianity based on his own views. In that sense, he's making himself the judge. He's stating that this is what matters, and one could argue that he's taking the role he had previously assigned to Jesus. This all comes back to what Dan previously said, that those who try to define who is and who isn't a Christian do so really to isolate those individuals they don't like. It comes down to their own feelings, to their own rationalizations, while making themselves the ultimate judge. They're placing themselves in the role of Jesus. As Christians, we can do better than this. We can do better than cherry-picking ideas that allow us to exclude others because we disagree with them. We can do better than deciding we are the true judge, and we can determine what's in another person's heart. We can do better than placing ourselves on a pedestal and stating we are the arbiters of truth. We just need to do better. And if you want to see better discussions like this that actually open the door to real conversations, give me a like, give me a follow, and we'll continue these into the next video.